So before it does display the full scripture, it changes from the word click to the word read more. Okay. So these are the things that we expect to do once we click on the click button. The first thing is that the button changes from click to read more. The second thing is that the ID of the button changes from my button to read more. So an ID is an identifier, and we'll highlight it moving forward. Okay, I saw that you guys were confusing between identifiers and events. So onClick is an event, but ID and an ID such as my button is an identifier. Okay, the third thing that we need to do after our button is pressed is that the volume or audio or sound icon appears, and it appears after the paragraph, but before the button. The fourth thing that we need to do after our button is pressed is that the home button appears at the top left corner. So none of you remember this button, but I think it's because it's at the top left corner. It's not that easily visible, but that should happen. That's point number 4. And the last point, which everybody remembers, is that it generates a random verse when the button is clicked. Okay. So to start us off, we need to create a paragraph and give it the ID my paragraph. Okay, and inside it, we're going to write the text, what's in the scripture. Okay, so this is done inside your index.html file. So please open your index.html file, which I know you have all done, and write out a p tag. Inside that p tag, the text that goes inside is what's in the scripture, as you can see here, and the ID of that paragraph is my paragraph. So let's all share your screens. Let me make sure you're doing the right thing. Okay, so this is it, right? Inside the body, right here, can you all see my screen? Let me just make sure. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So inside the body, you will write the p tag. P tag, as you see. So this is the p tag that stands for paragraph. Inside that p tag, you'll write what in the scripture. And that is the question. What's in the scripture? Okay. Then inside here, you will give it an identifier, an ID of my paragraph. Okay. Let me also paste that in chat. Though I do not encourage copy and pasting, it's better if you type along. Okay, so if you're able to type, kindly type along. It's a P paragraph. Inside it is the words, what's in the scripture, and inside that is an identifier called paragraph. I want you to take note of the opening and closing tags and where everything is. When you're done, please type in chat or use your reactions and give me a thumbs up if you're done writing out this paragraph. So after we are done with creating our paragraph, what should we do next? Let's see. So we have created our paragraph inside our index.html file. The next thing to do is to create a button. The same way you created your paragraph, you need to create a button. And the ID for that button will be my button, and inside it will be the word click. Button, ID for that button is my button, and inside it is the word click. button, has the word click, and has an ID of my button. So let me share my screen as I type that out for you, in case you are struggling. So right under what's in the scripture, this is not the right one. Okay, so right under what's in the scripture here, you need to create a button. Start with the
Sure.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I think something's wrong with my code.
Okay. Let's finish here and then you can share your screen.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. So the tag is the button tag. Inside it is the word click, and it has an ID of. Just put a space there. It has an ID of my button. So let me just put a space between the paragraph and the button. So this is what your code needs to look like. Let me copy it and paste it in chat. And then please share your screen. Let's see. Please share your screen, Grace. Okay, awesome. All right. There you go. You have it right. You have a button of ID, my button, and it says click. So that works perfectly. Your button is visible. You can delete the hello world in case it doesn't look pleasing to you. Yeah. Let's continue. Let's see what comes after we have added our paragraph. So after adding our paragraph, or our button, we need to start making changes. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to make the click button change from click to read more. Okay, when it is pressed. And for that, we need to start working inside our JavaScript file, and that is scripts.js. So make sure you're outside index.html and you're inside scripts.js. Let me share my screen again, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So we are no longer inside index.html. We are inside scripts.js. So we're inside this file here. Let me highlight that. We're inside scripts.js. Are we all there? It should be blank. Paul, Hannah, Grace, are we all inside scripts.js?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Now, okay, so this is our first interaction with jQuery, okay? For jQuery, the very first code you will ever write is to make sure that the page is loaded successfully before you write any code. So the first line of code just checks that your page is loaded successfully. And if it's loaded successfully, only after it is loaded, that's when all other changes should happen. Okay? And that code is this code here. All right. So let me present that so you guys can see. So let's break down this code slowly. Hannah, what do we call this part of the code? Is it a selector? Is it an event? Is it an identifier? Or is it an action?
Event.
No. So it's a selector. It's selecting the document. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, an event is the second part, which is the ready. So whatever comes after selector is always an event. Okay, so this part here is the event. All right, so selector, event, and then inside here is the action. So you need this code inside your jQuery. All right, so let's code that out together. Go into our replit. There we go. So the first thing is a $sign. So the first thing is the $sign. After the $sign, can you guys see my screen? Can you see my screen, guys? Yeah. Okay, awesome. After the $sign is the brackets and the word document. $sign and the word document, which checks for the HTML document. We are selecting the HTML document. After that, after we select the document, we check whether it is ready. So the event that's happening here is the checking whether the file is ready. After we have checked it's ready, we put in a function. So add function, normal brackets, and then curly braces, like so. So this is the code you should be having inside your scripts.js. So let's make sure you all have that. So Grace, can you tell me what this code does? If you're asked. So guys, remember we have an HTML file, right? And inside that HTML file, we have linked our scripts.js. We have linked the JavaScript file. So when we start running this application, they're both running at the same time here, right? Whenever you refresh, your HTML, your JavaScript, your CSS, everything is running at the same time. So what you want to do is you want to tell your program, hey, listen, I know all these files are running at the same time, but I need you to wait for the index.html to finish loading. Only after it is finished loading is when I want you to load the JavaScript file, okay? Because if you're making changes to a button and the button itself has not loaded, it means you are working on non-existent elements. Does that make sense? So when selecting anything, remember you have to have the $sign. All right. So let me share my screen and let's select the button. So every piece of code goes inside that code you have written. Okay. So $sign, brackets, and then you remember our button ID is my button. So if you go back to your index.html and go to your button ID is my button. This is your ID here, all right? When referencing IDs inside jQuery, we use double quotation marks and we use a hashtag. So hashtag stands for ID. Later on, you will see full stop stands for classes and etc. But for now, because we're dealing with an ID, it's a hashtag and our ID name is my button. Okay, so let's make sure we all have that. We're using selectors to select a button whose ID is my button. We are starting with a hashtag in front of my button because we're dealing with ID. Anytime there's an ID and you're using it elsewhere, it will be represented using the hashtag. All right, so after we have selected our button, what we want to do, the event we're checking for is the clicking. We're checking what happens when our button is pressed or it's clicked. So to do that, remember events, we use the word click, and then double brackets like that. And then inside those brackets, you will write the word function and represent a function like that. Okay, so we have the button. We are saying when our button is clicked, and not just any button, the button of ID my button, every time it is clicked, we want to do something. Okay. And what do we want to do? We want to change the text from click to read more. And to do that, we select this button. We say this button we are working on using the keyword this. This button we are working on, changes are happening to this button. So we use the word to reference whatever we are already working on, which is my button. And we want to say the text, which is currently what's in the scripture. We want to change it from what's in the script, the button, which text is currently click. So looking at your button, it reads the word click. We want to change it from click to read more. You do that by by writing the word text, and then brackets, then double curly braces, and the new text that you want, which is the word read more. Okay. And when you run that and click on the click button, it will change to read more. Because I don't have jQuery. Okay, uncompressed. Let me copy this quickly, then come back to my Replit. Okay. Then save, and then run. Oh, okay. Okay, so my problem was the scripts. I didn't have my jQuery linked.